Where do I even begin?
Bad dreams.
Bad dreams. So I don't really know where to start, and I'm gonna just wing it. But if you maybe noticed, I
Have a loud dog.
I have a loud dog. But as you may have noticed, I missed posting on Wednesday, and I've been trying to post twice a week in October. And well, I missed one without much warning, and I didn't even realize that I missed it until it was too late. So things have been a little crazy. And last night I posted on my story a little bit about this, and I've had a lot of questions as to what's been going on and some updates. So while this was not the video I had planned for you all tomorrow, I guess it is the video I am now going to film. So yeah, the cabin's haunted, or it was haunted, and I'm pretty sure it's because of the new table that I bought. Now I know it is almost Halloween, it is the perfect time of year for this, and I am kind of embarrassed about that in a weird way. I don't know if that's the right term. I promise you this is not me being kitschy or weird or just, you know, time specific. It's just how it ended up playing out. And it was really scary and unfortunate, and I'm not really sure if things are better yet. So I may do another update later, but I figured that it's probably time to just talk about it at least once. And if you haven't noticed, I'm not in the cabin right now. I am in my apartment because it's creepy there, and we're here gathering, my girlfriend and I, getting some more ingredients because I am kind of slowly moving there and I just don't have all of my supplies. I have really a bare minimum of stuff I need to film with, and that just was not quite a bit to work with, but we'll get into that later. This will be a good example of why it's nice to have substituting plants and herbs, and it'll show that when you don't have everything in a pinch, you can still make things work. I don't really know where to start with this, but I guess maybe let's talk about that new table that I bought and was really obsessed with. If you all follow my vlog channel, which I will have linked up above and down below, you'll have seen that I got a new table for that beautiful big window that you'll have seen in the last video, maybe last two videos. It's a beautiful window, and ever since I moved back in, I've been wanting to get a table to put there just so I can have my work table in front of a window. If you've been following me for a while, you know that's how I like to work, in front of a window. And so it was kind of something that's been in the back of my mind. I've been looking at Facebook Marketplace and other places around, just seeing if there's anything that popped up and caught my eye. But one evening while I was deep in an edit, I just had this sudden urge to go drive to one of the antique stores close by and see if they had a table. It was really random and out of the blue. My girlfriend can attest to it. I mean, I can be impulsive, but I feel like it was a bit of a crazy time and decision. Yes, she's nodding her head. We got there, walked through the store super quickly. I didn't look at anything, and I went through a couple of the rooms and then made a beeline for this table. I saw it and immediately knew that was the table I wanted, and that was the table we got. Never once in my life have I gone into an antique store and not bought a handful of things. I'm very bad there, and this time I just got a table. Just a table. I will say it was a bit pricier than I had intended to spend on a table, and I just did not care. I wanted this table so badly. Anywho, got the table, brought it inside. I was so obsessed with this table. You even could see it in the vlog. I showed it off. I was so excited. I couldn't stop talking about it. For days, I was FaceTiming my mother multiple times a day to make her look at a table. I'd make you look at the table. I'd call you in from the other room just to look at the table. I mean, it's a very beautiful table, but I didn't need to be that excited about it. And I was so obsessed with it, and this should have, I think, been my first sign that it might be a little weird, but it wasn't, because it was just so pretty and that's all I could think about, which I guess is the point. But anyways, that could have just been me being crazy and obsessed with a beautiful table, but now after everything that's gone down, it does seem kind of like a thing to note. Immediately after we got the table, you and I started having bad dreams. And our dreams kind of aligned. They weren't necessarily the same dream, but they had similar context, I guess. And they were all just kind of scary in a way that's not normal for either of us to have dream-wise, and we were having nightmares every single night. Around that same time, the living room, which is where the table was, started to feel really weird. When you cross the threshold, it just felt threatening. I don't know if you've ever felt that fear feeling on your back, that just like something's watching you or is behind you or is just present and is dangerous, but that was the feeling that I got every time I walked in there. And you did too, a little bit. You and I started feeling weird in that room. Yeah. Yeah, it was weird and it felt very different. And I didn't talk about it in the house, and I knew something was off, and a handful of days later, and I hadn't put it together at this point that it was the table, or most likely the table. A few days after all of that kind of started, for a handful of days, we had to drive into the city for a bit, and on the drive, I said to you that something feels off. I think there's something in the house that shouldn't be in the house. And you agreed with me. And she is a skeptic. Hardcore. Does not believe in this stuff. Or at least didn't believe in this stuff at all. And given my background of witchiness, obviously I do believe in this stuff. So taking my word for it is not necessarily as impressive as it is taking yours. And it was weird. And you agreed, it was weird. And I kind of didn't really want to go back to this cabin after that, but we did. All of my work stuff is there now, and I had a lot of projects, and I just kind of was like, you know what, we're just gonna ride it out. We agreed not to go in the living room alone or stay in the cabin alone anymore, because anytime it was just one of us in the cabin, it felt really scary and weird.
I didn't know that we agreed. I thought that we were just both too spooked.
But yeah, it was very scary and weird. And that just continued to grow. And at one point, we decided that it was possibly the table. I think my mom had suggested that that was a potential thing.
I at first denied it. We were like, no, it couldn't be the table.
Yeah, no.
Like hardcore.
No, I know.
We're like, no, it couldn't be. Like, there's no way.
I know.
We were too obsessed with it.
I love the table. I still love the table. And we decided that it couldn't be the table, but just to test it out, we took the table out of the house and put it, there's kind of a porch section that's not really a porch, but it's like an outside room thing. And so it's a covered space, but it's still outdoors. And so we took the table and put it out there just to see if things got a little different. But it was only about 2-3 feet away from the door, so it wasn't really that far out of the house. Yeah, and it was right out. Yeah, it was right outside of the glass doors. So it wasn't a perfect test, but it was kind of just a little bit to see if things got different. And the nights that we had it outside, you and I didn't have nightmares. And what we decided to do at that point was just to start doing some simple cleansings. One thing I need to get out of the way, this is not my area of expertise. I know nothing about this stuff. I do not dabble in it. It scares the heck out of me. I have very purposefully not looked into these things or understanding good banishings or spirits or anything, just because it scares me. I'm not into it. And I just have avoided it. And so I just really did not know what to do. I didn't want to mess up. I was scared of winging it. And this is a place, this is not a beginner's area to just jump into doing. It's something that I think you need to be really well versed in. And I don't feel like I am adequately versed in this stuff to be dealing with it. And that was scary for me. Normally I don't feel that way anymore, having practiced as long as I have, but I've just never dealt with this, not firsthand, and it was scary. So I was really scared to do anything. Any cleansing, purification, banishing, all that stuff freaked me out. Ultimately, it got to a point where we decided it was necessary, and I did some looking around and some research, and we figured it out. But at the beginning, right away, we decided, let's get the table out of here, do some basic purifications and cleansings, see if maybe the space is clouded with our energy and it's just really huddled up in that room. I've been working a lot, and just to kind of see if maybe...
We've been really stressed.
Yeah, we've been stressed. And it was really tense in there. And so we wanted to see if maybe clearing that would help. And so we started by mainly doing things I do on the regular with smoke cleanses, And I don't necessarily do this on the regular, but we put salt piles in the corners of every room, and on the carpeted parts of the rooms we put it on a dish, so salt on a dish to kind of absorb negative energy. It's really easy to, it's a good way to absorb stuff. It's easy to just take out of the home and replace and do over and over again. And so we did that. Keep that in mind. And while we were doing these basic cleanses, just kind of went through the living room. We did some stuff in the kitchen, which is connected to the living room, and then we did a smoke cleanse on the table. Like I said earlier, we didn't have a fully stocked herb cabinet of anything. We had very few things. We only had rosemary, salt, cinnamon, and chrysanthemum flowers, all dried. And that's not what I'm used to working with. You all have seen here, I have a very well-stocked herbal apothecary of sorts at this point, just through years of collecting and working with this stuff. But in the process of moving, I've only been moving the things that I think I'll be working with, and that's all I really had. I tend to work mostly with what's in abundance around me, so I was going to rely on mostly what was there at the beach, and ultimately that's what we did do. But this is kind of a space where I wished I had more, but we didn't. And so we made do with what we had. We burned the rosemary and added salt, and I ended up adding some chrysanthemum flowers as well. And we were carrying around cinnamon sticks just as a little bit of a protective charm. And at this point we started drawing, or I started drawing a bind rune on each of us for protection.
We took it out of the house
Oh.
and cleaned. That was the first day that things started getting really weird. Things got much worse.
Yeah.
There was a lot of tension. It was not
It was
good.
uncomfortable. It was really freaky. But once we did cleansings, that's when things started to get weird, I agree.
And then we had a third day of bad.
But the third day was scary.
And the third day was scary, and then we took it out.
Yeah. And that's when we did everything.
And that's when we took it out and took it away.
Yeah. Okay. After we did the cleansings, it got really tense and weird in the house, and that room became scary, but we were no longer having nightmares. But it was still scary and weird, but mainly in the living room. It was only in the living room, which the table was 2 steps out a glass door of that
Visible
space.
within the living room.
It was visible within the living room, and it had been living in the living room. And things were scary and weird. We did the cleansing. The next day, left it out one more night. The next day, brought it in the evening, and then the next day was when everything erupted and was scary. And this is all when I started losing track of the time and posting. I didn't even realize that I missed a video. Things were just weird, and we were so caught up in figuring this out. And so Monday was the day of the cleansings. Things started to get weird. Tuesday was when we brought it in, and Wednesday was when we took it out and had to do full banishments. And it was scary. But anyways, Wednesday morning, I woke up first. I usually wake up, take Hayes out, just kind of spend my mornings doing whatever. I go and sit in the living room. But as I walked in, I noticed that some things had been moved around in that space in ways that they could not have possibly been moved by you or I or Hazel. And
I mean, they could have been moved by us, but we didn't.
or yeah, they could have been moved by us, but we did not move them. That's the thing. Or and Hazel could not have moved them. The one that is the scariest that I didn't even realize right away, because most of these things I just assumed that you'd moved them. And so I just went about my morning and took Hayes out, whatever. Then you woke up and you came into the room and you asked me, and this is the one that is scary and bizarre and made things really freaky, and we immediately left the house and made a plan. But one of the dishes of salt we set under a stool because it was kind of at the entrance of the room, so Hazel could have stepped on it or messed with it. We just kind of wanted it to be protected. And so it's a dish that's about that big with a nice pile of salt on it underneath a big stool. It is completely covered on top, by the sides. You know, it's not accessible by the dog unless she really got in there, which she wouldn't have. And we could have put something there, but neither of us did. And right on top of this perfectly undisturbed salt pile, right in the center, was a cinnamon stick, which you and I have been carrying around cinnamon sticks just as simple protective charms, and
We've each had 3.
Yeah, and we both all still had all of ours.
And the rest of the cinnamon sticks are in the closed jar.
Yeah, so, they are completely inaccessible. They aren't just on a table that could have rolled off. It was impossible. And if you didn't do it and I didn't do it.
Well, when I asked you, you said, no, I thought you did that.
Yeah. And so when we realized that neither of us had done that, that's when it got really freaky, because there's just no way. Oh, and one thing that I kept forgetting, the table used to be, when we first brought it in, it was in front of the window, right? The window I wanted to film in front of. And Hazel would go up to it, and this is what convinced my mother and freaked her out and made her say, you gotta get that out of there. But Hazel would go up to it and scratch it and cry at it or bark at it. And I just had assumed that that was because she wanted her window back. She liked to snoop and look out the window. And there's a little area where she could, but you know, it wasn't the whole big window anymore. And so we ended up moving it against the wall so that she could have the whole window back. I thought she'd stop scratching at it. I was upset. I was like, don't scratch my beautiful table. Once we moved it against the wall, it's no longer by the window. The window is fully open for her. She would still go up to it and paw at it and cry and be weird about it. And that's not normal for her at all. So anyways, that was another just weird thing. But after we saw the cinnamon stick on top of the salt pile that was just perfectly placed, and it felt kind of mocking. Especially my biggest fear was once we started doing cleansings and carrying around protective things, I didn't want there to be this awareness that we knew something was off, because I was scared it would make something angry, because I don't know how to deal with these things. It's not my area at all. And that just seemed a little bit mocking and scary to me. And so I said, hey, do you want to go to the grocery store? And we went to the grocery store and got like 2 things. But the whole car ride we talked, and I called my mom and asked her what she thought. She talked to my grandma. My grandma had been in the cabin all summer and hadn't noticed anything. And my grandma's really tuned to this stuff. She really would have noticed something if something was off while she was there.
Well, her sister came to visit.
Her sister came to visit. Her sister's really tuned into these things. I mean, there've been enough people who are very in tune to this stuff that should have noticed. It shouldn't have just been me, and they hadn't. And so that was kind of like, okay, it's probably the table, which I still am not cool with, because I still love this table.
We didn't want to get rid of the table.
We didn't want to get rid of the table. I still don't want to get rid of the table. And when we were on our way back from the grocery store, we were just talking about it, talking to my mom. We kind of formulated a plan. She said, you got to get that out of there. Just be done with it. And and another thing, Hazel was really scared to be left home alone. She definitely has some degree of separation anxiety. She doesn't love it. You know, I work from home. I get to spend most of my day with her, and so she just doesn't get left alone a lot. But she's okay with it. It's more of something that she kind of puts up a little bit of an argument. She's like, I don't really want to be left alone, but I guess that's fine. But she was genuinely terrified, and she would try to just escape the house every time we had to leave her alone, which was weird.
Even when we were in the home.
And even when we were in the house, she just wanted to get out all the time, which is not normal for her. She doesn't like to be outside alone. And she tried and would go outside alone, which is just really weird for her. But on our way back, we decided that it was time to just do a full-blown banishing and just see what we could do, because clearly the cleansings did not work. Things were getting weird and scary, and it just felt like it was coming to a head. And the past 3 days since we started doing the cleansings had just been really terrible and scary and tense and uncomfortable, and just that room felt so weird in a way that it hadn't before. It just felt really threatening. When we first got back from the grocery store, we had taken the table. We just immediately, we went in without saying much at all. We cleared it off, grabbed it, walked it out the door, put it in the car, and drove it up to another property that we have friends and family who own, and put it on their back deck and covered it with a tarp. And it is still there right now because I'm not ready to get rid of it, but they are currently not at the house. So I don't feel like I'm putting this on them. It's just away from this house. And So the table was no longer there, but it still felt weird and scary in the space. So when we got back, we started to clean. We deep cleaned the whole cabin, got everything organized, and then just started a ritual. It was a full moon, and this time of year, this full moon is great for banishings, and I plan on continuing to do more cleansings. That's why we're here right now, to get more herbs and things that will hopefully do a really good job and help kick anything else out or residual stuff and just fill that void that's been left with good stuff. But back to the banishing, I don't necessarily want to get too much into exactly what we did. I found a ritual in a book that I trust and adapted it to what we have and what works for me personally. And I just, we did this yesterday and it still feels a little weird. I think it mainly feels weird because we're still both a little scared, but I'm not 100% sure, so I don't necessarily want to share this until I'm sure that this is what has worked or if it's done. But I mean, essentially we took a bell and we did smoke cleanses and had words to say, and then we backfilled the space with a spray and more words, and then we put protective charms around all the thresholds and did our best. We went through the whole house and it took a long time, and I feel pretty good about it. While we were doing it, it felt powerful. And we started from the east and moved through the rest of the house and ended in the living room where the center of it all was going on. And Hazel was with us the whole time. And when we got into the living room, she started barking at where the table had been. We started doing the cleansings in there. Immediately Hazel started barking, and then she ran out the door and sat outside and watched the door and looked out to the water and would just watch. And it was super freaky and weird, I would say. Also, there is that window and she can bark at people when they're outside or dogs or stuff, but there was nobody there. There was nothing to bark at. She doesn't bark at birds or wind or anything. I mean, she's used to that setting, and there was just nothing for her to bark at, and it was really freaky. But we finished all of our cleansings. She came back indoors. We closed everything up and did all of our protections. And actually later on in the evening, she went back and started barking out the window, like something was out the window, but nothing was there. And that was also creepy. And so we put up some bigger barriers as well at that point. So long story short, I suppose, some scary stuff has been going down. We did our best to do a banishing and see if things will get better. It's been about 24 hours now. We have been in the city for a good chunk of this afternoon. It's evening now. And we'll head back there tonight, though I don't really want to. But it felt a lot better. Immediately after, it felt a lot better. It still felt a little bit spooky, but I think that's mainly because we felt scared. And we made sure to cleanse ourselves after as well. My plan forward now is to keep doing cleansings and protections and purifications and throughout the rest of the waning moon. And then when it is the dark moon, I think, depending on how it feels, I may do another banishing, just because that's a good time to do it. And we'll see if that knocks everything out for good. Mainly, I'm a little bit worried given the time of year it is, with the veil getting thinner. I don't want to mess with anything. I also fear that, we created a void. If we were fully successful, we created a big void of energy by clearing out that negative one. And I want to make sure we constantly are able to clear that out and backfill it with good. But it's been spooky. It was really scary. I don't know if there's much more to tell, and I'll keep you updated, but I did share in my story that there wasn't going to be a video, and because of this, and I got a lot of you asking for a story or an update or what was going on in the next video, and so I thought I'd better make one for you. But like I said, still not 100% sure. Pretty sure, I feel pretty good about it, but we need to do a little bit more work. Anyways, I guess that's the update on what's been going on. The cabin was haunted, and hopefully it's not anymore. And we're pretty sure it's from the table. The timing matches up. I don't want it to be from the table. I'm gonna still try to salvage the table, but I'm really not sure. If any of you know anything good or any tips and tricks on this, please let me know. This is not my area of expertise. I know nothing. We really just had to wing it and put it together with what we had, but I would love to do something a little bit more. And if anyone has experience with this, I would love to hear it. And if you think it's possible to save the table, that would be great. I will give it up if I have to. I'm sure somebody would want a haunted table. I feel bad about that though. It feels wrong to give it to somebody else. I'm just really not sure, and it did get scary. It felt really threatening. So here's to hoping things are better. I'll keep you updated, and sorry for the change in plans, but life sometimes throws a curveball at you, and this is one I never expected to deal with, but you never know, I guess. So I'll see you soon in the next one, and hopefully it will be not about this, or it'll be a good update. Thanks for watching this very long video of what's been going on, and I'll see you soon.